Yep. So have you already emailed it to me or? Okay. I imagine you're in good company. I'm sure tomorrow that there's going to be a lot of people trying to get Lab 3 up and working and perhaps not um, being quite as successful as they had hoped they would be. Well, let's focus first on the lab, just because the lab is 70 points and the mini lab is only like what, 8 points or something like that. So when it comes to the lab, that's definitely the better bang for your buck when it comes to points. All right, let me see if it's been received. Oh, not yet, unless I need to refresh this. You know what? Did you send me your lab as a zip file? Because sometimes those get blocked by the email server. Hello, Dylan. Well, let me just take so Matthew just had a question on the integer with the division in the player section. I don't know, do you have any particular questions you'd like me to address tonight? Okay, great. Oh, so it's not liking one of your files, Matthew. Hope you're not trying to infect me with a virus. I bet it's just looking to. Yeah, I think it's just maybe I can save it to Franklin's OneDrive and it'll let me. Okay, so now how do I get to my OneDrive? I'm stuck in Office. How do I get to that OneDrive? Here we go. OneDrive. I'm not sure, Matthew, is it your compute accuracy that's giving you the issue? Well, it said it saved it, but I'm not seeing it here anywhere. Nope. All right. Well, let's just, okay, and I think I lost the link because I clicked on something or another. Can you send it to me again? Or maybe it's, go back to email, maybe it's in there. Okay. All right, so is it the compute accuracy problem in Lab 3 that you're having an issue with, or is it somewhere else? Yes. All right, so Dylan, do you have any words of wisdom, or is that something that you're struggling with as well? And that is in the player class. It keeps moving on me. Oh, yes, definitely. You have to put in a condition. So let's take a look at that. I pulled this up here. So it's the compute accuracy in the player class. So when you're computing the accuracy, this is, all right, let's pull up the Word document so we compute accuracy so that we've got all the different parameters on that, the player class. Compute accuracy, where are you at? Record score, public final, player as a getter class, full drives, calculate the average of full drives and the percentage of drives that were on target. So we have a getter method, compute accuracy. It's computing the number of drives that were actually on target. Okay, so there is the potential that a player may have no drives on target, right? So it's kind of like the percentage of their number of total drives versus the number of drives that were on target, right? So that's how you're going to determine this. So you know how many drives were completed because, well, we know how many full drives we were completed, and then we know how many drives were actually on target. Now, wait, yeah. But a drive has to be on target in order for it to be a full drive. Let me think about that again. Golf is not really my favorite thing either. Percentage of drives on target. Return 0 if no holes were played. So if there were no holes played, which means that your record score, so you've got your scorecard here, that's going to tell you how many holes had actually been played, right? Okay, great. Let's just take a look at this. Oh, didn't display quite as nice, did it? We'll get there. Okay, so see this full drives right here? You need to check that first to determine, yeah, because you're determining the percentage of drives that were on target. So you need the total number of drives. So it's the number of drives that were on target determined by the number of holes that were played, right? Dylan, is that what you've come up with? Okay, so in order to know the number of holes that were played, you're going to have to go to your scorecard class. Let me bring that up. Well, we can actually just look in the scorecard class. So the scorecard class is going to give you the holes played. So this is the total number of holes that were played. Okay, so you can call this, you've got your this.card, right, to give you your divisor. So your divisor equals this dot card dot, and then you can call the methods that are in there, which is your get holes played, whatever that is. Okay, get holes played. This is going to return to you the number of holes that were played on the golf course. So that's going to tell you one thing, and then your, so that's your denominator, right? If I'm remembering my denominator, and then your new, so you're going to call your method, call the method, okay? Your numerator is your instance variable up here, which is your total drives on target. So drives on target. Okay, so those are your two things. Now, before you can do any division, because you could end up with a runtime, divide by 0 runtime error, and it specifically tells you to return 0, you know, in that case. So before you do anything, you need to check your numerator or your denominator. If your denominator equals 0, you're just going to return 0, right? If it doesn't equal 0, then you're going to actually perform your division and return that value. But it does want it to be double, not integer. And this method that gets you the number of holes returns an integer value, so that's going to be integer. Okay, your full drive our drives on target is also integer. So if you just divide those two values, denominator or numerator divided by denominator, well, in that case, you're going to return 0. Otherwise, oops, sorry, else you're going to return the numerator divided by denominator. But if you just return it, you're going to get an integer result, and you don't want an integer result. So you're going to need to convert one or the other of these numbers to be a double value in order to ensure that you get a double value returned. Full drives don't have, yes, because the full drives, yes, Matthew, so you can definitely use casting if you want to. So how would you cast this in order to make it a double value? What would you do to this equation? Well, so what would I do? So how would I make this denominator a double? What would I put? Would I put something in front? Would I put something in back? What would I do to cast? Yeah, and it has to be enclosed in parentheses, so it would look something like this. So you can do that, and that works, and it's probably the more professional way. Or you could do this times by 1.0, and that would also work. Either one of those would work. Using the double, casting it is probably the more professional way to go about it. Just because people might go, why are you multiplying by 1.0 versus if you put the double in front of it, they're going, oh, he's casting that as a double value and it would cause the return. Yep. Is that the only method that you're experiencing an issue with? Cool. Anything that you're struggling with or is causing you some frustration with Dylan in Lab 3? Or you said it was the 2-string, but you've already gotten that. Cool. Well, I imagine you guys are already way ahead of most of the other students. All right, so there was also a question on the mini lab for today, so let me pull that up. Where am I at? Homework. The week 7, right? It confuses me too that we're on off these. Okay. So the mini lab here is doing this assignment class. Now, is it in the actual class itself? What did you say it was in? Calculating the percentage? Having your loop exit on a negative test score. Okay. So that would be in the driver program then? The driver, yeah. Because I was going to say there should be no loop in the primary assignment class. So the only place we would have a loop would be in the driver. Okay, so let's take a look at this. Let me pull up my Notepad++ just so I can jot some notes down and then we can take it from there. All right. See if I can scrunch this stuff so we can see it all at the same time. Okay, so you're going to prompt the user to enter the number of points for an assignment. So they're going to enter the name and the number of points. So we're going to have this main method going on here, right? And so we're going to start right out. We're going to prompt the user to have them enter the name of the assignment and then to enter the number of points for assignment. So I'm going to kind of just go through like pseudocode and then we can take it from there. All right, so we've got to define a scanner class because we're going to be, or a scanner object because we're going to be accepting input from the console. So that's step number 1 that we need to do. All right, so we're going to prompt the user to enter the assignment name. Okay, and then we're going to get the name from the console. Okay, then we're going to prompt the user to enter possible points, and we're going to get the points from the console. Okay, so that's busy work at the beginning. Okay, so we've got that busy work. We then need to create an assignment object. So we're going to call our constructor to create the assignment object. Okay, passing it the values, right? So we're passing it the assignment name and the number of maximum possible points. Okay, so we've got our assignment object with all of that stuff. All right, then now we're going to go into a loop. And we're going to prompt the user to enter a score for the assignment until they enter a sentinel value, which can be anything that you want it to be, but you need it to be something that would not be a valid point. So the example given was like a -1. Okay, so we're going to have a while statement. You could argue that maybe there's a do while, but maybe they don't have any points at all. So a do while really isn't the best choice because a do while assumes that you're going to process everything one time and then determine whether you're going to continue. And so we don't know for sure that we're even going to continue once. So you're going to go with a while loop first. Okay, we're going to keep going until which point as the -1 is entered. Okay, so we could do something. So we could do something like we could set this Boolean variable here. You know, like keep looping, whatever you want it to be equals true. Okay, so you could use something there. I just use this. You can choose whatever you want it to be, or you could even just give it your sentinel value. So you could do an integer sentinel equals 1, right? And then, you know, so you could just use that right there, and then you could say while sentinel is greater than 0. I'm going to keep looping. Okay. Yes, you could do a do while, but you're going to have to first check the score. Like you could do the other things, but then check the score. Well, you'll have to first check the score to make sure it's valid and not processed. So you can use a do while, but I guess I'll show you both. Okay, I'll show you how it works with a while and how it works with a do while. All right, and then, you know, you can figure out. Okay, so we're going to keep going. So I'm just setting my sentinel equal to a positive value, right? And I'm saying keep looping as long as I'm greater than 0. And then inside the loop, you're going to prompt the user to enter score, right? And then you're going to get the score. And then you need to check, is my score greater than 0? Right? I mean, we can specifically look for a -1, but, you know, tell the user, prompt the enter score, you know, or -1 to exit kind of a thing, right? But we're going to assume that they would not, you know, so we can say if the score, so we can actually get sentinel, all right, and then we can say if the sentinel, I'm really having trouble with that, you know, is greater than 0, greater than 0, then we're going to call the accrue score method, passing it our sentinel value. Okay. If it's not greater than 0, then we're not going to do anything at all. All right. So the score is going to be accrued. This is going to keep going until which point is that sentinel value is no longer greater than 0. And then when you get down, so then your while loop will end, and then down here you're going to call, you know, your different methods to print out. Here's the maximum value, the minimum value, and all of that stuff outside of the loop. Okay, so let me widen this up a little bit. So define your scanner object. First thing, way up, well, you have to import too. Don't forget to import, clear up at the top, import scanner. All right. Then inside your main method, define your scanner object, get your assignment name and your number of points from the console, create your assignment object, passing those 2 values to it. So now you have your object all ready to go. And then I just used my sentinel or score, whatever you wanted to call it, it doesn't matter. Or you could use a completely different variable if you wanted to as well. I set it equal to 1 to be positive to cause my loop to start out, prompt the user to enter the score, or negative to, I could even say negative to exit. Get the value from the console for the user, check is it greater than 0? If it is, accrue my score. If it's not greater than 0, then when I get back up here, it won't be greater than 0 and my loop will end. Okay. And then I will print out all that stuff. Print stuff. Well, if I just use Sentinel, so it could be score right here. This could definitely be score. It doesn't matter. Oh, the code he posted? So I'm not sure, Matthew, if you can see how yours compares to, let's see what, if I can paste it in here. It's just going to give it all. Oh, cool. So I did promise to show you. So we could have made this a do while. So let me move this. So this would come down here at the bottom. This would be a do up here at the top, and it actually would work the exact same way, except for I don't need this. So all this stuff is the same. Do, prompt the user, get the score. If the score is greater than 0, accrue the score, and then while the score is greater than 0, keep going. So it's the while version and the do while loop version are almost exactly the same. I just don't have, I can declare my score ahead of time, or I'm going to have to declare it inside of the do while. Oh, you're right. So the other thing we need to, well, your program should be checking to make sure that the score is not too high, right? So the accrue score method, I don't need to do it here because that should actually be a part of my accrue score method inside of my assignment class. So it doesn't matter what score I pass here. If the score is greater than this number, then my assignment class should take care of that. Oh, did the instructions tell you? Let me pull that back up. Well, it doesn't say to do anything here. It doesn't say to output. But definitely here, the accrue score should look for something outside the range and not do anything at all. So it wouldn't hurt to tell the user that the score was too large, right? That would be a really nice feature to stick into it. You know, it'd be a very user-friendly thing to kind of say, hey, you know, the score you entered is too large, so I can't accept it. So you could definitely do something like that. So here, if the score is greater than 0, then you could say if score is greater than max points, or whatever that is, possible points, whatever you called it, possible points, you know, then you could, you know, display, you know, score too large, can't process. Else, else call the accrue score. So you could definitely do something like that, which would be a very nice, you know, very informational and nice thing to display to your user to provide them with more oh, okay. Yep. Is the lab, for some reason I was thinking the lab was actually due this week. Oh, you're right. There is one more week for Lab 3. Oh, I was thinking it was due this week, but nope. It is not due until next week. So, Dylan, you are all good to go. Yeah, I was thinking it was due this week too, but it's not due until next week. I better double check WebCat to make sure I've got the right due date in there. Well, Dylan, you can take a break. Well, do you guys have any other questions for me? All right. Well, I'm glad you guys came out. We're going to talk about arrays, I think, this week on Thursday, which is, again, one of my favorite. Let me pull up the PowerPoint just to make sure I'm not misspeaking, but I'm pretty sure we're on arrays this week. Yes. arrays and array lists, which are amazing. If you've never worked with arrays before, do you guys have an experience with arrays? All right, well, Dylan, you will love them, and Matthew, we will help you to re-love them. How's that? But arrays are awesome, and you deal with them all the time. Actually, everything that we're talking about up to this point, you just deal with all the time. But the good news is that arrays are the last construct that we're going to introduce in the class. So it's not that we're done learning, that's just the last new feature. And then we're going to start rearranging everything and showing how you can use all of this stuff together to solve different types of problems. So that'll be the last new feature that's learned. We're not going to do anything with databases in this class. 121 really gets into files, so file input and output, and a lot of validation. So we have been doing a little bit of data validation with our methods here, but not really any great deal. In 121, you'll actually get into doing the exceptions where you bring in data and you generate exceptions and try and errors and stuff like that, and you'll definitely do file input and output. So this class is more about just getting you familiar with the Java language and with object-oriented and used to looking at the Java docs and those sorts of things so that you'll be prepared to do the remainder of the, all the hard stuff or more fun stuff, I guess, more useful components as you progress into the upper level classes. But yep. You guys will like arrays. They're amazing. So cool. Well, we'll just go ahead and call it a night. So Matthew, hopefully you're all set now with your class. And Dylan, thanks so much for showing up and offering guidance there. And I wish you guys all a great 4th of July.